What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, here to break down Tuesday, January 12th, two-game EPL slate. Would have been more fun to be a three-game slate, right? So, always good to start out with a negative and a complaint. But we have soccer, we have big prize pools. We have a fine slate. You can definitely make some lineups that, while they are not the most optimal, not the way we love building, we don't get 5 set takers and guys that are fullbacks that cross 15 times, but you can make builds. There could be some chances to differentiate yourself from the competition, and I hope that I'm able to do that and help you get there. Just a reminder, if you enjoy this content, you have not hit that subscribe button in the bottom right. Today, January 12th, is your day. Go ahead and hit that button. Get you access to obviously all of our soccer content. We have NBA every day, Monday through Friday. Chris on the weekends does a phenomenal job of the NFL showdowns. This channel is just packed with all sorts of free information that will help you continue to be successful in your DFS venture, hobby, career, whatever this is for you. All right, let's jump into these two games. So let's start out with odds, just so we can get kind of a baseline of what's going on here. So Manchester United going to Burnley is the biggest favorite on the slate, minus 206. Burnley is plus 630, only a 2.75 total though, so I think that we need to keep that in mind. I'll speak more of that in a second. Wolves versus Everton, really pretty square game. Wolves slight favorite at home, plus 155, a 2 total. So first and foremost, I think we need to get this out of the way. This is not necessarily a slate that, from an optimal / cash building standpoint, and keep in mind that is what we are outlining here daily for EPL. We are not doing GPP lineups, or I'm not giving you here's the route to GPP. The reality of GPP is it is kind of picking a scoreline or picking I always like to say in our Discord chat, you've got to tell a story with your lineup. If you think Manchester United is going to win 3-0, how is that going to happen? If you think that Wolves are going to win 2-0, how is that going to happen? You need to put that story together, and if you get the story right, you're going to reap the rewards. But this type of video, and the strategies I'm going to talk about are really for a cash / optimal build, and I'll mix in a couple of GPP plays that I think about. So in an optimal build, chasing down a goal, paying 9,200 for Marcus Rashford and a 2.75 total might not be the most optimal when a Pedro Neto or James Rodriguez can match Rashford with a goal with floor. And that is the strategy that I'm going to kind of outline here. I'm not going to be chasing goals in cash. I think it could be tough, especially, and here's where I'm going to go about Manchester United. We have seen this over and over and over again over the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, that when a team bunkers and Manchester United has to control possession, they can, not always, but more often than not, they have struggled to break them down, especially when it's just Bruno Fernandez. Paul Pogba is likely set to miss here. Say what you want about Paul Pogba, but he is one of the better passers in the world. He has the ability to pick, a pass that not very many people or players see, a trait that Bruno Fernandez surely shares as well. But without that extra creative outlet, I think that United could struggle. That just means that United is going to score 5 goals, but could struggle early to break Burnley down, who are a very, very defensively minded, very sound shaped team. And that's the type of thing that could give United some fits. So I'm going to actually start this preview somewhat backward with goalie. And I think that, especially with how tight pricing is, that a majority of people are going to start with the likes of Nick Pope. We have a subscriber in our chat. I'm not going to mention names in case he doesn't want his identity out. But I think for legitimately, a month, every time Burnley's on, whether it's a showdown, whether it's classic, we get some there's something in the Discord that says, "And Pope I trust," or Nick Pope for everything. And honestly, he has done insanely well now for probably the entire time. I want to say that he probably got on in November and just been riding Nick Pope, who, honestly, from a shot keeping perspective, should be England's number one. I know that Garrett Southgate, values Jordan Pickford's feet. It's odd, from a goalie perspective, I would value a goalie's hands versus feet. But, Southgate, Pep Guardiola, those type of guys, care more about how a goalie can handle the ball with their feet and make passes than stopping shots. But that said, I think Nick Pope, should be England's number one from a shot stopping perspective. But I think there's a really good chance that he's pretty busy. If he's getting a lot of long range shots, which is what Burnley's strategy and shape is set up to do, he could rack up the saves. So even if you think that United scores 1 or 2, you still might very well be able to take Nick Pope's, 5, 6, 7 saves and just rack it up from there. It's also going to help you actually make a lineup. If you go pay up for David De Gea, especially if Burnley doesn't have Dwight McNeil, I can't fault you. I just don't think – I think that paying up for goalie in the slate is going to make you in some weird builds. You can definitely, though, still get into the mid-tiers. So if you have a strong lean on Rui Patricio or Jordan Pickford, go for it. I think the hardest part about those teams is there's a chance that game doesn't have a ton of shots, right? So, really, if it's 1-0, you better get on the right side of the 1-0. All right, that's the most goalkeeping talk we've probably ever done on this. Let's jump to the forward pool, which I think from a cash perspective is really, really narrow. I think you have James Rodriguez up top, who played, I think it was like 100 minutes in the FA Cup over the weekend. So he is definitely back to fitness. We now are on Tuesday. That was Saturday morning. So he's had 3.5 days to recover. So he should be fine. I think he's the top cash play on the slate in terms of the forward position. Bruno is the top cash play. But 10.5, it's a fairly steep price, but it's probably very fair for his floor. You look through when he's been fit and he's, a locked in double digits. We've had 2 games in here, Manchester United and Southampton, where he didn't hit double digits. The rest of the time, been one of the better floors in the EPL. That last West Ham game was just as he was coming back to fitness and subbed in. So I think James Rodriguez, especially, Pedro Neto is the other option. I think a majority of people in cash, in, optimal builds are going to have one of the two. I lean James over Pedro Neto because of João Moutinho. If you don't see João Moutinho in, I actually think that the $700 Pedro Neto cost savings might be worth it. But if you see João Moutinho in, he's been eating into the sets for Pedro Neto. At that point, it's a split, $9,800 for a split, and for somebody whose open play value has been kind of falling off a little bit, I think is kind of steep. And I think that he has a teammate that might have very, very similar, if not the same open play value as Pedro Neto, just losing the sets. I don't want to pay $9,800 for 7.3 DK, for 8 DK, for 8.2. Like, that's the game that honestly worries the hell out of me is a game at Burnley. Pedro Neto should be, and that was with João Moutinho, like 99% sure. Pedro Neto should be, racking up double-digit 4 points. So to not get there, that's damning. I think James over Neto. Now the teammate is Adama Traore, who, after a really slow start to the season, finally starting to turn it on. You look from a floor perspective, and he has no set pieces, and it's very, very similar to Pedro Neto, 10.7, 7, 9.2, and then there's that game versus Burnley. He actually, even without sets, more crosses, obviously more fouls drawn than Pedro Neto. So to me, take the $2,200 discount on Pedro Neto. I'm sorry, with Adama Traore over Pedro Neto, likely full with James. Now I think a lot of people, probably the ones that don't watch this video or listen to RotoWire or some of the really good soccer content that's out there. There's not a ton. Might go to a Rashford or Martial. Big favorite, big name. ESPN FC calling Marcus Rashford the most valuable young player in the world. Don't get me started on that. Like how you can put him above Haaland or Mbappe, like whatever. But anyhow, big name. You have the favorite. You could probably look at that, and when you see, James Rodriguez, Pedro, you see Pedro Neto. Like, I think a lot of people know James Rodriguez, but you see Pedro Neto above Rashford. I think the average person goes, huh? Why? And so you're going to see a good amount of ownership on these two guys. I think there's a huge leverage in GPPs to not play those two. I think they're going to be over-owned relative to their likelihood to score. And if you do, want to play them, I think that you need to find a unique combination to enter them in. I think Greenwood down here at 6,000 without Pogba, I likely think that they're going to start Greenwood out on the right, will be significantly less owned than them, despite the price difference. He's still going to come in lower owned because of the name. So I think that just if you're going to play Rashford or Martial, maybe even stack them together and just onslaught it. Pope is going to be pretty popular, so maybe you go the other way. Maybe you try to get the Everton Wolves keeper right. Play Patricio, fade Hymas. Just hope that Wolves gets up, is able just to clinch the game throughout and catch up like a late winner from. I'll bring this up later, from Ramon Sais, right? I think he might even be a little bit owned as a center back, but for good reason, or over owned for a center back, but something like that that's going to make your lineup different if you're going to go that route would be my advice. All right, let's go to the rest of the forward pool. I just kind of mentioned those two, who for me are more GPP. Podence is out. Calvert-Lewin is out. There's a chance, Barnes and Wood I think are actually really good GPP plays, just because I don't think they're going to be that owned. And I think that United could concede. So, I'm fine. Just understand it's with those two in this type of matchup, it's going to be goal or bust. Cenk Tosun scored in the FA Cup. Actually scored twice. One was ruled off. The 4,200 for starting striker on Everton. Look, it's cheap, guys. So, could allow some things. And without DCL, I think he'll start. So that's an option. Also saw for Burnley, JBG may be back, 3,500. There's actually a more than zero chance that he's on some set pieces. It's been a while, so I think anybody's guess is your guess. But with McNeil out, we've seen Eric Peters take some corners. So if JBG is in, I think that there's a chance that he might be on split with Westwood, of either him or Robbie Brady. But 3,500 forward eligible. If you're not a huge fan of Adama, or there's somebody that you have to get into your builds, 3,500 if he's starting, even if it's only 16 minutes, is really good. I did leave out one guy. I just realized, for Richarlison. I think that he's available. Let's see, late fitness test. So we'll have to see if he can't go. That's a huge blow for Everton too. So keep that in mind if you're looking for keepers. No Richarlison and no DCL would be huge, and probably tilt the tide towards Wolves a bit. But Richarlison's floor is okay. It's been a little bit less good. Doesn't even sound right, but less good, at the end of the season versus the beginning. But I still think he's fine. Just to me, at 8,500 again, I'm taking Traore over him all day. All right, midfield's not going to take as long. We're almost out of here, I promise. Bruno Fernandez, to me, is just a lock and load in your lineups. Again, knowing the ownership he's going to have, if you want to make this your pivot for forwards, actually, come to think of it, I outlined Rashford and Martial, and wow, I said Rashford and Martial. Maybe the way to do that is play the two of them and don't play Bruno. If you think those two score and Bruno's not a part of it. But for me, I think Bruno's going to be almost every lineup I make. His forward's that good. Again, no Pogba. All the creativity is going to fall on Bruno. So there's a good chance we see a ton of shots assisted. Yes, he does not take a monopoly set pieces, but he still takes some free kicks, direct free kicks, PKs, all that stuff. Bruno, to me, I'm just going to play. We have a ton of MFs here that we kind of already talked about. Gylfi Sigurdsson's, if you see James Rodriguez in, is not in play, so just skip over him. He should be in. Mata at 6,700, never. Ruben Neves, we have Tendril Storm and I have been absolutely beating Ruben Neves and over the head into our lineups, into our showdowns for weeks now. He is finally out of play at the price. It's just tough. But if you land on 6,200 and you love the rest of your lineup, Ruben Neves has a great chance to get you 7 to 10. Just understand the range of outcomes is probably in between 3 and 10 without a goal. So that's why he falls out cash consideration for me, because I don't want to hit the 3, spend 6,200, and I'm screwed. Alex Iwobi at 5,600, I think is fair. He's been crossing the ball a ton. He's also been crossing the ball from the right when he's been filling in for James. So I think it's a little bit less natural if he has to play on the left if he's filling in for Richarlison. So keep that in mind. João Moutinho, I think, might end up being semi-popular. I do not like João Moutinho. I don't really like him here. I'm going to detail a player I like a lot more. But, his floor has been fine. So I cannot fault you. If I land on 5,300, I'm in a cash build. I'm definitely just going to play João Moutinho. I'm not going to overthink this, but I'm not starting my build with João Moutinho. I don't think that it's incorporating enough ceiling. You're really, really dying for an assist, right? I don't see him getting to double digits. So that's not somebody I ever want to be locked in on. But at 5,300, I think it's really fair. Daniel James, if he starts over Mason Greenwood, is fine. He was good in FA Cup over the weekend. He's been bad in the EPL. He's been even playing a wing-back position, which should be good for him. But, this Leeds game, somebody might look and go, 14.3 DK. That's with a goal. So that goal does not go in. And he scores 4.3 DK in 90 minutes of a game that Manchester United scored 6 goals. Keep that in mind. As we go down, McTominay had that great game versus Leeds. There's better United pieces. Robbie Brady, I could not fault you on for 4,400. I think, I would rather save 1,000 off of João Moutinho to Robbie Brady than forcing in João, but that's just me. I think they're very, very similar type of range of outcomes. Brady's been pretty decent for them. I would probably be more fond of Brady if I don't see JBG. So here's the range I really want to get to. So there's a chance that without Pogba, they decide to put Donny van der Beek in. He should be a creative outlet for them. That's what they signed him to be. He has not been good for them. 3,400 though is probably pretty egregious price for somebody with his talent. So I would have a hard time not playing Donny van der Beek. But the player that I'm almost positive on, that's on the cover of this video. You probably by now have been thinking, did he mean to put Fred on the cover? Yes, he did. I just some call myself he. You get it. I did mean to put Fred on the cover. It's 3,200 guys for the biggest favorite for a very, very active midfielder. While yes, he does not have sets. He's not going to cross. He will shoot occasionally, but for 3,200, look down the logs. You are, especially since he came back in the lineup, you're getting very often 5, 6, 7 DK. At 3,200, we don't need to overthink this. You might have been the one that saying to yourself, João Moutinho's on corners. Well, you are getting 6 to 8 DK for João Moutinho from 5,400. I will gladly myself take 5 DK from Fred for 3,200 and then outdo you with the extra, $2,200 in savings. I feel like I can do that. So I think to me, Fred, from a value perspective, is about as good as it gets on the slate. And somebody I'm planning to likely lock in. Anybody else down here, look, if they're in, they're in play. They're that cheap. Fred's the guy I wanted to outline. Finally, defender. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. At the top, Lucas Deans, just to me, is too expensive. He played, I want to say, 65 or 70 minutes over the weekend, subbed out early. So he might be fit at this point for 90. I mean, he's fine. Just 7,300. He's priced like the Lucas Dean of last year where he took a ton of sets. He doesn't do nearly as much crossing with James. So I'm probably out. Alex Telles, if in, I will very much be trying to find a way to do it. He was great in the FA Cup over the weekend, which makes me think that Luke Shaw is going to start over him, which I'd much prefer. Take my $1,000 discount. Luke Shaw, look, I'm not going to try to explain why he's on corners. I haven't watched enough to know if they're good service. I'm assuming that they are to take Bruno Fernandez off, but Luke Shaw, then to me, is close to a lock and load. It's going to have crossing opportunities in open play because Burnley's bunkering. And then when you have a team bunkering, you have a lot of blocked shots and things of that nature. So going out for corners, so there's a good chance that Luke Shaw can end this game with close to double digits. At 5,500, I think he's almost too cheap. Otherwise, look, fullbacks are always better than center backs from a cash perspective and a floor perspective. I do just want to point one guy out. Roman Sais is by far Wolves' best set piece target. I will not be playing Sais in cash, but in GPP, there's a chance that he's a little bit over-owned because of his 7.1 average per game. in his recent logs, but he's just good. He's great in the air. 15 shots on the season, 3 goals. So a really good shot. And then Everton's long struggled on set pieces. I think under Ancelotti, they're getting better, but it could be a good way. You could also go Harry Maguire down here if you want to punt. Just 2 other punts I just want to bring up because I feel like I need to at this point. I always like the Burnley center backs for just pure punts. Ben Mee, Jacob Tarkowski. Honestly, at this point, Tarkowski to me is greater than Ben Mee because now he's cheaper. And, for the longest time, he's been the better set piece guy. So I don't think you can go wrong with either if you need to go down there. All right, that'll do it. I think I went over. This is what I get for taping too early in the morning. I don't keep as good a job on time. But I do hope that I was able to go into a pretty good amount of depth for you on the slate and help you onto some winning plays. So thank you all once again for watching. Again, if you have not already, bottom right, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. And with that, I'll say see you.